You are listening to a podcast by the Little School of Happiness. My name is Sandra Hayes and I'm your host. Here you will find episodes on all the Vedic teachings like yoga, Ayurveda and Vedic Astrology. For more information about me and my offerings, please go to sandrahayes.eu, or if you're in Germany, sandrahayes.de. Hi again, Aoife. How are you?
I'm doing really well. The sun is shining here in Ireland, so that certainly helps.
Absolutely. It's absolutely beautiful here. I can see the mountains from where I'm sitting, and it's just beautiful sunny day. And slowly it's getting warmer as well, and the light is coming back. So that makes such a difference, doesn't it? It just shows, the light is coming back. I can see it as well when I teach my yoga classes, because they are mostly in the evening. And usually, when we start and when we finish, it's dark. And like on a Monday, for example, I have 3 classes in a row. And now the first class is completely in daylight now. So I can't wait until all the classes are, you can...
When you see it, slowly starting to change. A teacher once said to me, and I thought this was a really great way of thinking about it, because I think when spring comes, you can just get so active so quickly. It's like this impulse to make the most of the bright weather, isn't it?
Yeah.
But in fact, if we're looking at the bulbs as they're pushing through the earth, the seeds as they're growing, a lot of their growing is still happening underground still.
Yeah.
And for us as well, we're, essentially coming out of a dark time of a little bit of hibernation, and it's nice to slowly emerge.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's really important actually to remind ourselves to that sometimes. In Ayurveda, it's taught that it's really important to go with the energies of nature. And that is just one example of, what you're saying, that, our seeds as well are starting to show, not all of them yet, but even those that are showing now, they've been planted last year, So this is really, really good to see as well, that when we match our actions, whatever we do in life, to the seasonal energies, then I find anyway that I have much more energy, and it's much more effective when I do things in that way.
Yeah, and if we look at the dasha system of our Vedic astrology, it makes a lot of sense as well, particularly the dasha of Jupiter followed by the dasha of Saturn.
Yeah.
And we'll be talking about Jupiter today. Jupiter is about expansion, and it's that period of our time in life where we, plant the seeds, allow them to grow, create the wealth, create the abundance. And then it's a natural cycle of life then to draw back in, to constrict and to simplify. And this is the dasha of Saturn, which naturally follows Jupiter. So all these beautiful natural rhythms, they're echoed in Ayurveda, Vedic astrology, all of these beautiful modalities.
Yeah. It's like winter following an abundant autumn harvest, or it is beautiful. And now in this time of the year when the light is coming back, it's also our consciousness. The sun is vitality, isn't it? And our vital energy is coming back. And with that, our consciousness expands as well. And we can, again, think about other things other than just surviving. Sometimes, over the winter, it's literally just a feeling of getting through the winter. Especially at the last end of the winter, I find anyway, the time of, February, where it's kind of drawing out, and we really need the sun and the sunlight.
It's root chakra stuff, isn't it? Survival, staying grounded, staying rooted.
Yeah. The beauty of Jupiter is that he's continuously bright. He's the brightest of the planets continuously.
He is. He's the largest planet in terms of surface area and, the material aspect of a planet.
Yeah, yeah. And he just continuously gives light.
We can see him in the sky. He's absolutely radiant. Actually, both of the planets we're going to talk about today, Jupiter and Venus, they're both visible, of course, to the naked eye and are very radiant.
Yeah.
In fact, Pythagoras called Venus the alternate sun or the other sun because it shines so bright.
So brightly.
Yeah.
And Venus and Jupiter, they're both gurus in the Vedic mythology. Jupiter is called Guru and Venus is called Shukra, but both of them are considered gurus. Jupiter, the guru of the gods, the teacher, the advisor to the gods, and Venus, the guru to the demons, to the earthly creatures, the materialistic world. And it's a beautiful analogy because when you think about it, Jupiter, he is, stands for all the kind of, things like philosophy and the higher knowledge and brightness of the mind, where Venus is that in material form, in art and creativity and beauty. So it's a beautiful thing, really.
I thought it was interesting to pair them up today because they are, of course, both teachers. And one being to the devas, who in the mythology are the gods. So Jupiter is the teacher of the gods, and Venus being the teacher of the asuras, who are the demons.
Yeah.
It's interesting to consider that. In terms of Venus, we think about love. And even if you don't know anything about astrology, when you think of the planet of Venus, you think of love.
Yeah. Women, beauty, love. Yeah.
And Venus being the teacher, this beautiful, harmonious teacher, wants to teach to all. And it just is a beautiful example of sharing her radiant light, as you say, this beautiful white light, with not just the gods, but the demons as well, able to reach people at all areas of their life and spread her light.
Yeah. Venus is really about surrendering to love. There's a beautiful story about Venus, about Shukra as well. Shukra, the guru to the demons, because you probably know this quite well, this story as well, where Shukra had a secret, he's been given a secret mantra, a mantra that was able to resurrect the dead. And he got it because he was really dedicated to his spiritual practice. And so he got this mantra and he had the mantra. And of course, everybody wanted it. And because the demons and the gods in Vedic mythology continuously are fighting against each other, the gods wanted that mantra. And so everybody tried, they all different people tried their tricks to get this mantra of Shukra. So one, and I can't remember the name. If you know the story, maybe you know the name of that particular person who went and became Shukra's student, but only so that he could get close to him and try and get the mantra. And Shukra, of course, he knew what was happening, but still he took him on as a student and he taught him everything except for the mantra. But what maybe both of them didn't see coming was that the young man fell in love with Shukra's daughter. And so, the daughter kept begging Shukra to just leave this man for me, let him stay here, he's not bad, I love him. And so Shukra allowed him to be here, to be close and to learn. And everyone else, all the other asuras, they saw what was happening and they thought, this is not possible, we have to interfere here. And so they started to go after the young man and killed him. And each time they killed him 3 times and really literally, chopped him into pieces and scattered his pieces into different parts of the world. And every time Shukra's daughter begged him, because he did have the mantra to resurrect him from the dead and bring him back to her, which he did, because he would do anything for love and for his daughter as well. Until for the last time they did, the last time they killed the young man, and they didn't scatter his pieces, but they, this is quite gruesome actually, they ground up his body into a powder and put the powder into a drink that they gave to Shukra. So Shukra drank the potion and had this young man inside of him. So he knew if he now would resurrect the man, he would die because he was inside of him. But his daughter was so sad and so heartbroken that he would do even that. But at the same time, he would sit and meditate, and he would be able to communicate with the man inside of him, and was promising then to give the mantra to him, so that then when he dies and the young man was resurrected, he would then in turn resurrect Shukra, which he did, and it happened that way. So everybody won. But the story just shows that Shukra he sacrifices himself for love.
Wow, that's really beautifully told. Yes, of course. And anyone who is an Irish speaker listening to this podcast will be familiar with the word shukra, because it means sugar in Irish, which of course really indicates something sweet.
Yeah. And in Sanskrit, it is the word also. It shukra means, also refers, I think, to sweet or to, it's, I'm not sure.
Well, of course, the most used posture, you could say, apart from Shavasana and yoga, is Sukhasana, and this means an easeful seat, or something that is easeful, comfortable. And we can see really the root of this word. It's the opposite of dukkha, which is suffering. It's sukha, which is sweet, or it means to create space or to be clear. And it's an example actually of what a poetic language Sanskrit is.
It is. It's a really beautiful language. There is no word, I think, in Sanskrit that starts with this syllable of sh, or with the sound of shush, that isn't something that is calming and beautiful. A Sanskrit word will always carry the vibration of that which conveys. So in that sense, it's like we would never say to a baby any word that doesn't, we all say to our babies, shh, if you want to calm them down, we never would say or some other hard syllable, which in Sanskrit would always be an activating word. Any word that starts with k or kr is an activating word. So Sanskrit is such a fascinating language.
So many layers, and there is a big comparison between the Irish language and Sanskrit, but not just the Irish language, of course, because it is said to be the root of all modern language.
Yeah.
And one of those words is guru, which we mentioned a little bit earlier. And gu and ru, sometimes it's translated as gu is darkness, ru is light, bringing light to darkness. But it's more that gu is the darkness and ru is to remove it. So guru is the remover of darkness. And of course, Jyotish is the science of light. And it's really pointing to the same thing, shedding light on what lies beneath, what is dark, what is not understood, helping you to see the truth. And of course, Jupiter being guru is the teacher, but it is said that we all are our own guru, and it is pointing to what we already know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Our own intuition, our inner wisdom. Yeah. And in the chart as well, it's when we look at anyone's birth chart, obviously we all have a Jupiter, we all have our inner wisdom, our inner guru. And, it just depends on where he is, how easy we can access this inner wisdom, or how strong it is in us, and how much can it shine out into the outside world. But we all have it.
We all have it. And it's said that Jupiter has the spiritual knowledge, but he wants to share it with the world.
Yeah.
So if Jupiter is strong in your chart, you're going to be a teacher. And I suppose this is very true for me, maybe true for you as well. But in my chart, I have an exalted Jupiter in Cancer.
I was just going to say, I bet you have a very strong Jupiter. Yeah.
That's and I fell into teaching as what, I used to explain that I fell into teaching accidentally. But if I suppose anyone who knew me when I was a child said, Aoife, you're always telling people what to do. It comes very naturally.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I don't have an exalted Jupiter. I have a Jupiter in Scorpio, which is maybe related to the astrology, but I do have an exalted Venus in Pisces, and which is interesting because I also have kind of stumbled into teaching, but for me it was always teaching something creative. I remember this started when I think I was 19 or 20, and I was doing theater. I wanted to do theater, and I went to theater school, and I applied to different places, and in one place, it was a music school. They said they just lost their tap dance teacher, and they saw on my CV that I have been doing tap dance. And I said, well, I've only been doing tap dance for quite a short time, and I wasn't able to teach. But they said, well, then just do it temporarily until we have a teacher. But that was that. I was stuck with them for a few years then, and that from there it just expanded. So my teaching is Venus led.
Yeah, and of course both are part of our dharma, but I suppose the responsibility or the role of a teacher is to help people find their own dharma.
Yeah.
And Jupiter is very much associated with the dharma houses because he owns the dharma houses on the chart. And if that would mean that if I'm looking at a birth chart and Jupiter is in the first house, that he's aspecting and looking at all of your dharma houses. So purpose would obviously be a big theme in your life, and it points to perhaps what your path or your role in life is.
Yeah. There is actually, probably most people these days know Teal Swan. She's quite famous on the internet, and I'm not actually quite sure what her background is, but she is definitely inspiring a lot of people. And I actually, out of curiosity, I looked at her chart once, and she does have not only an exalted Jupiter, but a Hamsa Yoga as well, which means her Jupiter is exalted and in a Kendra house, which makes it particularly strong for her. So anyone with that kind of a Jupiter has to be inspiring people, teaching people. It's just not possible, probably any other way.
And and particularly if it's exalted or in a house that is about being selfless, it is about giving to others, as opposed to learning for the sake of learning, because Jupiter is about knowledge as well. And part of a big theme in my life too, and I'm sure yours as well, is the search for knowledge and the search for wisdom.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's very strong. And I remember Marianne differentiating between Jupiter and Saturn in terms of Jupiter being about knowledge, because Jupiter understands but wants to bring this knowledge down to earth, a bit like Venus bringing things from the spiritual into the manifest in a creative way. And knowledge really is more academic. It's more to do with Buddha, the intellectual side of the mind. Whereas Saturn is about wisdom, and the things that we truly embody, understand, are things that we've experienced. So through life experiences, we gain deep wisdom. Through our studies, we gain knowledge. And if they're both very strong in your chart, ultimately that will strengthen you as a teacher as well.
Yeah. It's good. The connection you said about Saturn as well, it's to have that connection is quite a sign as well, isn't it? The Jupiter-Saturn connection, where we find in a lot of spiritual teachers, because Jupiter alone can be very spiritual as well, but it's about knowledge. But that depth that Saturn brings to it as well, that ability as well to go inward, that just brings another whole new dimension to it, a depth to it that you find in real yogis and people who go inward and meditate. And
when they connect in some major way, there's often a major shift in the world. I've done a lot of reading around this, and there's a great book by Edith Hathaway that talks about, the big shifts in the world's transformation, the Industrial Revolution, technology. There seems to be a connection between Jupiter and Saturn instigating these huge changes on the world stage, which of course affect all of us.
Yeah. Didn't we have this connection as well during COVID, or at the start of COVID? There was a big Jupiter-Saturn connection as well, wasn't there?
I think they were both together in Sagittarius.
Mm-hmm. And no, Saturn was in Capricorn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Saturn was at home in Capricorn. Yes,
was at home, exactly. And maybe Jupiter. I don't have to look it up actually, because I can't quite remember, but I do remember there being some connection. And also the connection between Saturn and Jupiter in a birth chart shows up the Shakti, doesn't it? The deep inner energy, the kind of the power that each individual has, the individual power that we bring into this life, that might be hidden, that might not be unlocked yet, but we can. And it's shown by that connection of Jupiter and Saturn.
I suppose it might be worth saying as well, you probably get an idea just in what we've said already, that Jupiter is the biggest planet, but also the most auspicious, the most benefic planet.
Yeah.
So it is the giver of beneficence, and it's, this beautiful, magnanimous, charitable, lucky. It's a very beneficial planet. Wherever we see it, it can be challenged, but it gives a lot of blessings in your chart.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And so does, and both of them, Venus and Jupiter, are also talking about blessings. They're both also connected to abundance and wealth. And interestingly, Venus is more. Venus is attracting things. And this is very interesting as well. It's when you look at the planet Venus, it rotates inward. It rotates toward the center rather than outward. Mars, for example, rotates outward, and Venus rotates inward. And in astrology, that means, Venus attracts things. Both Mars, for example, Mars is also desire, and Venus is desire, but Mars would go out and get what it wants. It's like the masculine desire of really going out and like a warrior going and getting it. But Venus just stays and attracts things to it. And that's in our life. It shows as well with the Venus. it's the feminine quality, isn't it? It's, things go toward Venus. Things are attracted by Venus.
Well, Venus is about beautiful things, and it's nice to like beautiful things, but I suppose the higher resonance of this is divine truth. The lower resonance of this is just nice stuff. So if Venus is very strong in a chart, you'll probably be naturally surrounded by beautiful colors and flowers and be an interior decorator and like designer clothes. That's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that. Whereas I think the energy of, and you love, romantic love.
Yeah. All of that is true for me. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have to be careful here.
I have exalted Venus, and I love a beautiful surrounding for sure. Yeah.
Well, I don't know what this will say about me, because Jupiter, which I have exalted, is more of the priest. He goes to do his ceremonies and his rituals, and it's less about desire. Having said that, I do have Mars and Venus together in Libra. So Venus is at home, and when Mars and Venus come together, that's very passionate.
Yeah, that's very passionate. Yeah.
Passionate priest.
Once you are in a relationship, that probably gets triggered and you become very passionate.
That's it. Exactly. Otherwise, I'm happy doing my little ceremonies somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. There's another lovely story about Jupiter Guru and his wife Tara, who, when you imagine being married to a priest, it's good on one side because you have a really good person beside you, have somebody who's really righteous and kind and forgiving and all of those things and wise, and it's beautiful. But also, there's not a lot of fun in life, and for Tara, this in this story, it was like that. She probably was a little bit bored, or she had a longing, because she was feminine as well, and feminine energy wants to experience things, emotionally as well, and in a felt sense. And so she had a longing to experience emotion. It's in all of its range of possibilities. And along came the moon, Chandra. And so Tara went away, eloped with Chandra, with the moon, and had all this experience. And of course, then war broke out because of that, not because of Jupiter, but because of Indra, actually, because Jupiter asked Indra for advice. What shall I do? My wife has gone away. And so they went after her, and battles again between the Asuras and the gods started up until eventually she came back home to him. And I don't know, I've heard different versions of this story, whether she voluntarily came back or whether she was dragged back. I don't know. But
maybe there was a bit of reluctance. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe it was. Yeah. But that kind of shows two sides to everything. Venus, as much as it's beautiful to be creative and see the beauty everywhere, but it can also be materialistic and drawn to too much shallow beauty. And Guru and Jupiter, as much as he's wise, he can also be righteous and rigid in his knowledge. So there's two sides to both of them. To every planet there is. So
yeah, and in a chart, actually, I find it difficult to interpret a debilitated Jupiter and a debilitated Venus, because if they're so beneficent and so beautiful, it's very hard to interpret what they might be like when they're challenged. And with Jupiter, it's all about expansive energy, which is wonderful. As you say, wealth. Now, wealth, of course, can be spiritual wealth. It can be a wealth of love. It can be money, but it doesn't have to be. But it is a wealth and abundance, and that can be wasteful. It can. Jupiter and challenged, it can be very wasteful, and also if Jupiter is aspecting perhaps something challenging to do with health, you don't want that to
Exactly.
expand.
You don't want a tumor to grow, for example. Yeah. This is one thing in medical astrology. You would look for Jupiter as well if you wanted to see a tumor, for example, that is often involved in that. Now, I don't have much
Because
experience
it's
in medical
a
astrology, but
multiplication of cells, and you don't want that, emphasized. When it comes to Venus, you've talked about beautiful, exalted Venus. It's spiritual and dreamy and beautiful. Where Venus is debilitated is Virgo, and Virgo is very detail orientated and everything in its place. But it's slightly conditional, or it can be conditional. I'll love you if. There can be an essence to that, but it's still,
although I have to say there is, there's always a little bit of a benefit to that, to any debilitated planet as well. It's not a debilitated planet is bad and an exalted planet is good. It's just, that, they can unfold their complete potential in their exaltation, but debilitated Venus also means that someone might be a little bit more thoughtful about who they're going to fall in love with,
less
where
naive.
Venus will just surrender to the moment and go ahead and,
get swept away. I'm just thinking about this with your moon ascendant who falls in love easily, and then your exalted Venus who's already in love. It's like,
I know.
That's beautiful.
This is what actually I remember Marianne saying this in my chart as well a couple of times, be careful about who you fall in love with. better would be to use my exalted Venus just spiritually, and basically it would be great for me to become a nun and just surrender to spiritual love.
Well, maybe in later life.
Maybe in later. Well, do you know what? I often thought that this could be an alternative for me, for sure. If something didn't work out, well, I could always join a Buddhist temple or something. This had, even when I was younger, this was kind of in the back of my mind. It's definitely a thought that is not too far away from me, that is possible. I could imagine that with,
And Jupiter is higher education and your teacher, right? So isn't it interesting that we've both been very lucky, I think, in life with the teachers that we have found?
Absolutely. Really, absolutely. I have to say, yeah. We were so lucky with Marianne, first of all. And, it's rare. I mean, it's not that there are not many good teachers out there. There's a lot of good teachers out there. But to find that real special connection as well, and that, gem that can really feed you. I felt so fed by Marianne with, wisdom and inspiration. And that is so, that is just so valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And throughout my life, I feel very lucky. It's a theme. It's, these teachers have arrived in my life and helped me on my path, which the path, of course, is really what we're considering when we're looking at a chart, isn't it? I mean, none of it is coincidence, but we have to be open, open to teachers. And just like, I suppose you were talking about Venus being a little bit naive, maybe in certain charts, because there wouldn't be an understanding that anyone would ever have an agenda that would be, detrimental to you. That can be very true of a teacher as well. You put your faith so much in a teacher and their understanding. And unfortunately, what's been shown time and time again in lots of different traditions is this can be dangerous. You have to choose the right teachers.
Yeah. I think
speaking of teaching, sorry.
I think when a teacher starts asking you to go against your own inner guru, then it's a real red flag, in my opinion.
Yeah, or withholding
Something.
information or implying that they have a greater understanding that you're not ready for. Or all of this language is a real red flag.
Yeah, I think so too. And even in the Vedic scriptures, it's said everywhere that even in the Yoga Sutras, that the most important teacher you'll ever encounter is your own inner teacher, your own intuition, your own wisdom. So yeah,
and that certainly comes as a chart matures. There is a process. We're not born knowing everything. And understanding everything. And this is what the D9 points to. We look at the D1, which is the birth chart.
Yeah.
And then we can also look at the D9. I think we've mentioned it before, where we can see things come to fruition over a lifetime. You don't know when. It could be 5 minutes before you pass.
Yeah. Although interestingly, a chart a complete, all the planets in the chart are only matured at around age 49, which I find very interesting, because isn't that the age where, as women, we start menopause, we kind of enter a completely different phase of life. In Ayurvedic terms, we are entering the Vata phase slowly. We're going through another transition and then entering the Vata phase. And it's the time, and it's interesting as well that, most animals in nature, and also men, when they come to the end of their sexual ability, they die.
Really?
But women, and also, as far as I know, whales and elephants, they actually have a whole other life. They have another, whatever. As women, we have another 30 years or something after our menopause, after we are not fertile anymore. And what is the purpose of this phase? It's to teach, of course, it's to kind of be the wise elder who is teaching the previous generation, maybe in terms of stories and creativity, like Shukra does, or maybe in terms of philosophy, like Jupiter does, or like, as actual teachers, but teaching we will, ideally. So it's quite beautiful to think of it that way.
It's the image of the crone, isn't it? And in a matriarchal society, these are the women who are the wise leaders. But unfortunately, I think the crone has, in certain cultures, become something very negative, associated with the witch, or, something that is scary.
Cultures, yeah.
When in fact it is a time of wisdom.
It is. And this is another, maybe a really good thing about our times as well, because we are definitely going through times of changes. And one of the changes I think that we are undergoing is that, femininity is rising again, and the value of femininity is beginning to rise again. And it's up to us, though, I think, as women, and also as older women, to claim that, not to wait for somebody else to validate us, but to stand up and claim that, Venusian and Jupiter energy of, being the gurus in society as well.
And Jupiter is about, among other things, it's associated with law, right? And independence and freedom and law and what is right. And I think it's really only when you come into your wise years that you really see the world for what it is. And it's very hard to sit with things that are unfair and unjust in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's something in the Andrew Foss book, the book of mantra for each of the planets, which fascinated me. Now it's a real kind of geeky thing, but we're always thinking about Jupiter in terms of the size of the planet. It's the biggest planet, right? But it's more than that, because in the book. I don't know if you've seen it. There's not that many images, but he has an illustration from NASA. Did you see this?
No, I don't remember.
And it's an illustration of what's called Jupiter's magnetosphere. So it's like an aura around the planet of Jupiter. And it's made up of these charged particles. So, it's floating around and it's held in the aura of Jupiter. And it's huge. It's like many times the size of the sun. Jupiter is just tiny within the expansive aura.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that. Yeah. That's amazing.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah,
It's something I didn't know about before. But I suppose it just gives another layer to, and you see, here we go. It's amazing.
Yeah.
How did they know? It's about expansion. This is the word that is related to Jupiter, expansion.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have a teacher who, not in yoga or Jyotish, in a different field, who I did her chart, and she's a Sagittarius ascendant, and she's the most incredible teacher. And one of the words that's associated with Sagittarius, which is owned by Jupiter, is frank and direct. And she is brilliant in that way.
Yeah.
So, there's that side as well. Isn't it funny if you think about what Jupiter owns? Because he owns Sagittarius, which is righteous, frank, direct, and Pisces, which is divine truth, empathy and intuition, and being psychic. And they're two aspects of a teacher, really, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, that's beautiful, that image. I have to look that up now.
Yeah, because of course Andrew Foss is a scientist as well. When you have these teachers who have the scientific knowledge as well, it brings things to life. It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, it does.
I know we haven't talked about Venus much yet, but one of the other things that I find really interesting about Jupiter is the association with the color yellow.
Yeah.
And that as a sannyasin, if you're giving up everything and living this aesthetic lifestyle, this is the color that you wear. It's
yellow robes or orange.
It's associated with pursuit of wisdom and spiritual awakening. So again, all these layers upon layers. It's so interesting.
Yeah, that is beautiful. Very beautiful. Yeah, and I suppose we can, of course, strengthen both planets in our chart. I mean, they're both benefic planets. And to strengthen them, even just, to strengthen Venus, all you have to do really is strengthen your own Venusian values like creativity, or even simply finding beauty in the world. We can actually practice that. I find it a really beautiful practice to go around and really find beauty everywhere and in other people as well. Because, a lot of the times we get kind of, people get stressed with their daily grind and work, and then it becomes something dry and competitive maybe. But if we just look at our situations again, or our co-workers or family members or whatever, and actually consciously look for the beauty in everything, that makes such a difference to what we get out of that, to our own happiness and our own feeling of joy, our own ability even to feel joy again.
Yeah, there's a prescription that I hear is being given now to people to do forest bathing, which in fact is just to go out into a forest and experience, or just go out into nature as a prescription. And this is so Venusian, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
And sometimes I see people wearing, beautiful colored clothes and silks, just, really, just, I suppose, wearing all the different spectrum of colors, these beautiful bright colors. And I always think, oh, they are so Venusian, because within the white of Venus is all colors. And sometimes they say it's variegated, like it has all the colors shimmering within the white.
Yeah.
So you can honor Venus by, I don't now. I'm really Saturn
Yeah.
is my lord, and I'm always drawn to
Yeah.
dark colors, plain colors. But you can honor it through the beauty of color and
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And also another thing is that in the Vedic teachings, we have the Purusharthas, the four pillars of human need, or, what do we need to be even, mentally healthy and to function and to be happy, to be able to be happy. And there are four pillars, and two of them really are represented by Jupiter and Venus, because one of them is karma, which is the connection to other people, which is a big aspect of Venus, and the ability to experience joy in life. And
Yeah, it's a legitimate aim of life. If it's very strong in a chart, this is part of your life. I think we can be very restrictive with ourselves about, what we should do and what we shouldn't do, but it's pointing to something really important there. What brings you joy? This is so important.
Yeah, it's pointing toward yourself, really. Who are we? What is my authentic self? Who am I really? To find that out, I have to really follow what brings me joy. And, maybe even think back what did bring me joy when I was small, when I was a child. What did I do when I was growing up? And all of these things point me to my true nature. And I cannot find my true nature if I do something that doesn't bring me joy, that just because I think I have to. I may, have to do things like that temporarily, but it will not bring me to my real, true, authentic self. And that is Venus who does that for us. And then on the other hand, we have Jupiter, the truth. When we do follow our joy, it brings us to our calling. What is my calling? What is my dharma in life? What is my, with my true nature, how can I contribute to life? How can I give my truth to the greater workings of life and of the cosmos? And, what is my part in it? And that's really important need as well, to feel that we have a sense and a use in this society, and in this, that we belong in this way.
And this self-expression is often through creativity, which would be, particularly in a chart that is strong in Venus, it will be through perhaps the arts, whether that's through your voice or through, poetry, dance, which is, part of your background, certainly, in art. And the symbol for Venus is this circle, and the circle always represents spirituality. And then this cross coming down represents this downward draw of the spiritual into the manifest, into the material. So you're taking something that is, maybe in the subconscious, the imagination, or beyond that, and it's channeling through you to create something. And the fifth house points to this, not for everyone, but sometimes that creation is your children.
Yes, that's the highest, one of the highest creations we can bring forth in this life is our children, of course. Yeah.
But we see it a lot, strong Venus, in the charts of musicians, writers, poets. And the word desire is associated with karma as well. We talked about karma in terms of joy, and desire can have negative connotations when in fact it's pointing to what brings us joy. And as the sutras tells us time and time again, as long as you're not too attached and grasping towards desire at the expense of everything else, as long as it doesn't own you, you have the freedom to enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's nourishing us as well. We need to experience joy, and we experience that through our desires. So yeah, as long as we, like you say, as long as we are staying conscious of it, that is always important. It's always about consciousness, isn't it? And the chart is helping us to become conscious of our inner parts, our inner planets.
To acknowledge all of it.
Yeah.
In this experience that we're having.
Yeah.
I have a quote from Marianne. Will I read it?
Very nice.
And it's about Venus. It's about love, because she, on her website, 7 Winds, she has some really lovely blogs, and one of them is about Venus and how, it's a big market in India. No one gets married without going to their Jyotishi. And parents will go with multiple charts saying which one is suitable for my son. And Venus actually points to, for a man, a wife, and Jupiter for a woman in the chart points to a husband, in the traditional sense, of course. But beyond that, there's so much more. So I thought this was beautiful. So this is a quote from Marianne. She said, "For the ultimate manifestation of the sweetness that is Venus is spiritual. Love for anything or anyone mirrors in its essence the purest form of love, which is divine love. Divine love is the highest expression of Venus, which is why Venus is exalted in Pisces, a place of cosmic expansion and unconditional love. Every point in the material world is a portal to that infinite realm, because everything and everyone is ultimately that same divine reality."
That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Thanks for that, Aoife.
Yes.
Well, on that note,
it's a great note to finish, isn't it?
It is absolutely wonderful.
It's been so lovely to talk to you today.
Me too.
There's one more thing, right? I have to add this, because again, yellow with Jupiter, the stone that is associated with Venus is the diamond. And of course, when we get engaged,
we get a diamond. Yeah, some of us.
Well,
yeah,
there we go.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Aoife. I look forward to next week already.
Yeah. I think we're more than halfway through our little journey of the planets. But can't wait to talk to you again.
Very good. Yeah, thank you. And talk to you soon again.
Bye. Enjoy the sunshine.
You too. Bye.
You were listening to a podcast by the Little School of Happiness. For more information, please go to sandrahayes.eu, or if you are in Germany, sandrahayes.de.